Chelsea visit Wembley this weekend for Tottenham's first home game of the new season. Apart from Arsenal, they probably couldn't have picked a spicier opponent to play. With the heat having cranked up in recent years between the two, let's take a look at some of the more memorable clashes in recent years between Tottenham and Chelsea. Tottenham 2, Chelsea 1. When Aaron Lennon fired the winner past Peter Cech at White Hart Lane in November 2006, Spurs fans may have celebrated like they'd won the league, despite them not even being a speck of dust on the title race. Shockingly, it was the club's first ever win over the Blues in the Premier League, with their last league win having come 16 years earlier. It looked like it was going to be more of the same when Claude Makélélé fired the champions ahead inside 15 minutes. When that man finds the back of the net against you, you can't help but think it's not your day. Michael Dawson equalised, however, with a towering header before Lennon's crisp finish just after half time. John Terry's red card just compounded matters for the Blues as they suffered their first league defeat at White Hart Lane since 1987. Tottenham 5, Chelsea 1. Spurs might have spent 16 years trying to find a way to beat Chelsea in the league, but they didn't seem to have too much problem in the cups, sticking 5 past them at White Hart Lane in the Worthington Cup, or the Carabao Cup as it's now known. Glenn Hoddle's side battered their London rivals with goals from Stefan Iverson, Tim Sherwood, Teddy Sheringham, Simon Davies and Sergei Rebrov, condemning them to a 5-1 defeat. Oh, and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank's red card made sure the Blues ended the game with 10 men. That seems to be a pattern in these meetings. Spurs 2, Chelsea 1. Speaking of Worthington Cups, or whatever the hell it was called back in 2008, remember when Spurs beat Chelsea in February 2008? When Juande Ramos was hailed as a saviour and Robbie Keane gushed about what a dream it was? Within 6 months, both men would have left the club, as would Avram Grant, who would swiftly learn that you can't keep finishing runners-up and expect to keep your job at Stamford Bridge. Didier Drogba's first half free kick had put the Blues ahead, only for Dimitar Berbatov's penalty to force extra time, setting it up for Jonathan Woodgate to power a header past Petr Cech and record Spurs' first piece of silverware in 9 long years. That was also 9 years ago, and no, they have not added to it since. Spurs 4, Chelsea 4. This may have been a game for the neutrals, but for Chelsea, it was just another example of just why they should not have let Jose Mourinho go so easily. The Blues had never drawn a game 4-all under Mourinho. He would probably have thrown his defenders off a bridge if they had. Avram Grant had been in charge less than 6 months, and this was the second time already. Spurs were about to suffer the mother of all League Cup hangovers, which would eventually bleed into the following season and cost Juande Ramos his job. And they found themselves staring down the barrel of a heavy home defeat when goals from Didier Drogba, Michael Essien and Joe Cole saw the Blues race into a 3-1 lead. Dimitar Berbatov pulled one back in 61 minutes, however, before Tom Huddlestone equalised in 75 minutes. Cole looked to have squeezed in a winner with 10 minutes remaining, but it was set up for Robbie Keane to beautifully curl into the top corner 2 minutes from time. Cue Chelsea fans calling for Grant to leave at the end of the season. He duly obliged, albeit with a helping hand from the Moscow turf. Spurs 1, Chelsea 5. The more you look at Roberto Di Matteo's short reign at the club, you wonder just why he was sacked. And then you realise that he couldn't manage his way out of a paper bag at Aston Villa later on, and you immediately stop having that train of thought. In April 2012, Chelsea met Tottenham at Wembley in an FA Cup semi-final. Spurs would go on to finish 2 places and 5 points ahead of the Blues that season, but there was only one winner that year. With Harry Redknapp condemned to Channel 5 by Didier Drogba's spot kick, he was also humiliated in the FA Cup, thrashed 5-1 by a side they'd drawn with twice that season. Goals from Didier Drogba, Juan Mata, Ramirez, Frank Lampard and Florian Malouda were enough to reverse the Blues' 5-1 defeat in the other cup competition 10 years previously, with Gareth Bale's strike nothing but a consolation. Chelsea 4, Spurs 0. Remember the thrashing that Spurs took off Chelsea that nearly made Tim Sherwood cry in the post-match interview? It's incredible that it was only 3 years ago, as it shows just how far the club has come in such a short space of time. Goals from Samuel Eto'o, Eden Hazard and a double from Debaba saw the Blues move 7 points clear at the top of the Premier League, and immediately saw sulky Sherwood mutter about top 4 being a distant dream. I'm not a football manager or anything, Tim, but you did choose to start Emmanuel Adebayor that day, and guess who was an unused sub? Spurs 5, Chelsea 3. You might say this was the first game that showed cracks under Jose Mourinho in 2015 and the emergence of the real threat that was Tottenham. It was only their second defeat of the season and it seemed to come from nowhere. Harry Kane gobbling up the Chelsea defence as if he had not been fed in weeks. Diego Costa got the ball rolling after 18 minutes before Kane equalised with a long range effort, and then Danny Rose put Spurs ahead on 44 minutes. The Blues didn't even have time to catch their breath before they were 3-1 down, and Ross Townsend scoring a penalty a minute later. Kane added a fourth in 52 minutes before Eden Hazard reduced the rears, before Nasser Chadli made sure of the 3 points. John Terry's late strike was nothing more than a consolation. The Blues recovered well, losing just once more as they romped to the league title, But let's not speak about the following season. Chelsea 2, Spurs 2. Probably the spiciest game of the lot. Never have I witnessed a team so desperate to cling to their fading title hopes as Spurs in the Battle of the Bridge in May 2016. Knowing that anything but a win would do, or Leicester City will be named champions, I know, still confuses me. They raced into a first half lead against mid-table Chelsea through strikes from Harry Kane and Son Heung-min. However, Gary Cahill pulled one back on the hour mark to set nerves jangling and tempers flaring before Eden Hazard raced through to lash one in, break hearts and send all of Leicester into absolute euphoria. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.